Got the headset.
Yeah, using the work computer, but it's good. I tend to like that.
So, are you who's on the top floor and who's down in the basement?
Mine's top floor. Yep. I'm down in
Right
the
up.
down in the home office.
There we go.
Are you in the office you got there? It looks like that place.
I'm in my office now. So let me get some of this out of the way. So, not short for giving a try to get some bodies on, but it's always kind of a deal. Every once in a while, I get 3 or 4, and other times I get nobody. So it's kind of like being a kicker in the summer.
Hmm.
Oh, you see if anybody shows up. But
Yeah.
the other thing is, I posted that video. I don't know if you saw it, but if you haven't seen it on YouTube, where Justin Tucker, apparently in the off season, he puts a little post out on his Instagram account. There's a park not far from where he lives, and he just says, "Hey, I'm going to be out there kicking in 20 minutes. Anybody wants to shag balls?" And he gets 50, 100 kids coming out there. It would be it'd be a hoot, and it would be fantastic. But um, so I don't know how many, Ryan, you could get on a summer day, but in Des Moines.
Probably not many. Probably not too many, unfortunately.
Hey, so one of the things I do is kind of like the football coach. I like to get started right away, and if somebody joins, I will enter them in. We'll do this a little bit differently here today, but hopefully I can figure out how to handle it. I'm just gonna so I'm gonna share our screens at some time, but right now I just see it more of us chatting. And so well, I guess let me do a very quick introduction. So this is going to be episode 6 for us at Kicking School, and today's featured guy is Ryan Schroeder, who just happened to have been a player on a high school team that I was a special teams coach for. Today is in a D1 program at Drake down in Des Moines, Iowa. You are what year this year? Junior?
I'm in my junior year.
Your junior year, what's your eligibility? Same?
I believe, I mean, I have 2 years left.
Okay. Okay. So, all right. So he's got one, and I got Arav is coming on here. So we'll jump him in. And the guy down at the bottom of the screen, who's now just shifted over, happens to be Ryan's father, Matt. Perhaps what you could do, Matt, why don't you give us a little rundown of just your kicking experience, and then Ryan,
Sure.
if you want to jump in and just say a little bit about how it started, but we'll get more into you and what you're doing, and then we'll get Arav has just joined us. Arav is one of our Kicking School guys who's a high schooler down in Texas. So hopefully we get a couple more who are going to join us, but we'll take it as we go. Arav, are you there, by the way?
Yes, sir.
Okay, excellent. We can hear you. Do we get a picture of you? Do we know what you look like, or are you going to stay incognito?
I'll try. It doesn't usually work.
Okay, if it does, no big deal.
Is it showing?
It is not. You're a black box, so that's okay.
Every time I turn the video on, it never works.
We got your radio voice, so we'll do good. So Matt, why don't you make a little introduction of yourself and what you know?
Sure. I was a specialist back before there were many specialists. Mike, I'm a little bit younger than you, but early to mid 80s, I played high school football in Indiana, played very briefly at Indiana State, which is the equivalent of what FCS is now. That's what they're in today. I think we called it 1AA back then. And just a quick fun story that, Mike and I went to the Mike Farley Kickers Camp back when Mike's dad had originated it and run it. And I think many years later, Mike and I did not meet until in the last 15 years or so, but I think we discovered that I was a camper when you were a college counselor back in 1983 at the same camp, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. Small world sometimes.
It's interesting. Yep.
Actually, I'm going to jump over here. Arav, do you want to just give a quick rundown of who you are, what you're doing, and how old you are, and where you're trying to kick at?
All right, so I'm a junior at Walnut Grove, which is like North Texas, north of Frisco. I don't know if you heard that. Right now I'm just trying to make varsity next year, which I am, but like I'm trying to play all 3 positions,
Okay.
and I'll see from there.
Excellent. Excellent.
about college.
And this past season, what year was the starting kicker or punter or same guy?
They were both seniors.
Okay, so they're both going to be gone. So the door is wide open for you to
Yep.
get to that job, but you always have to earn it, don't you?
hmm
Excellent. Well, let's get straight into it so we don't take too long here tonight. So Ryan Schroeder, again, D1 punter and kicker at Drake. Tell us a little bit about currently what's going on for you at Drake, and just so that others on the podcast would understand what your dad said. Drake's got kind of an interesting NCAA status. Tell us a little bit about that and yourself and what's going on there at college.
Yeah, so Drake is a interesting school. We're part of the Pioneer Football League, which is Division I FCS, very similar to Indiana State. However, we are non-scholarship. Us and the Ivy Leagues are the only non-scholarship Division I programs. And part of what that causes is a lot of guys will actually stay on, and there's not a whole lot of shifting on our team. So we don't expect a whole lot of transfers coming in or out, or coming in. You can always expect some guys to leave, but we don't expect a whole lot of guys coming in. And then a lot of guys stay for additional years. So a lot of schools, you might stay 3 or 4 years and get your degree and leave, where a lot of guys at our school will stay for a 5th year. And that's what happened this past year in our special teams room. We had a outstanding kicker who was our team MVP last season, as well as the conference special teams player of the year, stay, and he did both punts and field goals this year.
Okay, excellent. And as far as, well, let me just jump back. So how many guys actually came into Drake from the portal? Any?
We had one kid who was a backup quarterback, a late pickup.
Okay, so that is unusual in the new climate that is NCAA sports. So now I want you to go reverse in time. I want you to go all the way back to how did you get started kicking a football? When was that? And why was that?
What would you say? Probably 11 or 12 is when I started to go out to the field with my dad and do it every now and then. I'd express some interest in it.
But
And
you were playing soccer, right?
I was playing soccer, yeah, and
You really
having
loved soccer.
yeah, and having the background he did, and expressing the interest in it a little bit. He thought it might not be a bad crossover, and so started giving it a try. And I didn't actually play organized football until my freshman year of high school.
Okay, so and I think I bumped into you maybe when you were in 7th grade. I think you were out at the high school field back when it was still grass, I think. I don't think it was turf yet. And you had a great career at Cedarburg High School, and Cedarburg is about 1,100 students. Arav, I think you're at a much smaller school. Is that, am I right about that?
No, we have like 2,000.
You got more. Okay, so
Yeah.
you get even more competition. There you go.
Mhm.
But Ryan, you started as a freshman, did you not?
Yeah, I started on kickoffs and field goals as a freshman, and then I took over the punting duties from Wyatt my sophomore year.
Okay, and as I recall, in your freshman year, you made a pretty good kick.
Yes, I actually still have the article framed in my room. It's one of the few things hanging on the wall in here still.
You
But
weren't
yeah,
a very good team that particular year.
no,
We
2
were
and
going
7.
against a team that normally wasn't very good, but we had to get a win, and you got a last-second walk-off kick and field goal, did you?
Yes, yes, sir.
How did that feel?
Uh, it was pretty awesome. Just having that experience, and having the embrace from older guys. Being a younger kid, the embrace from the older guys is really what was meaningful from that experience.
Neat, neat, and yeah, not many guys wait a lifetime for that one, and probably solidified your desire to stay in kicking a football.
Yeah, a little bit.
Now, when did you stop playing soccer goalie?
So I stopped doing that about my sophomore year, right around COVID.
Yeah.
In that realm.
Okay, and then later Ryan went on and all conference number of years, senior all conference both as a kicker and a punter, which is pretty rare, but is awesome. As I recall, though, you didn't have the season that you wanted to have. Tell me a little bit about that in particular. You had a terrible special teams coach. Is that the problem?
Not quite, not quite. Obviously I probably didn't work on some things as well as I should have. But I also it's kind of a good segue into things to focus on as a specialist and things that you don't really think are important as a high schooler that really turned out to be very important. And that was not only the quality of my holder, but the trust I had in my holder.
Yeah. So now that you're well, and before I jump into that, we'll come back to that. So after you have the season that you do, you were up for Stemke Award and other stuff. Got accolades in a number of different areas and had some interest from colleges. Tell us a little bit about that senior year and maybe after the season is over, but tell me when you first started getting what you felt like were serious looks at you from a recruiting end of things and where your brain was at, and then ultimately choosing Drake over others. Why?
Yeah, so the serious interest started going into that year. I had still been a ranked kid through Coles.
Mhm.
But more than that, what ended up happening was a couple of schools kind of came to me out of the blue. Um, I had a really good camp kicking in front of Army, and so they had a guy calling me pretty regularly. And then schools like North Dakota State, South Dakota State had asked me personally to come to their camps through the special teams coaches. And then I had kept sending them film throughout the season, and Drake had to reach out to me briefly.
Sent film your senior year or junior
My
year?
senior year,
Okay.
I was sending film, and I was doing my junior year too, but my junior year was not nearly as good as my senior year, so wasn't too much to hand out
When
there.
you say you, and let's get into some of the basics on this stuff, because I think some of our guys will be very interested. Um, how did you send film? What did you do? How did you get the film? Where did it go?
So actually, I have a bit of a unique situation. My dad would actually bring an iPad to the games and film because the huddle quality, the game film that we got,
Very
we didn't
distant.
feel was the high quality or followed the ball like we needed it to.
Yep.
And so we had him do that himself and then compiled it. Each game we were kind of, going through and picking out the clips, putting them into an iMovie, and every week that iMovie would grow and grow, and we're organizing it in terms of we put what I wanted to do in college first, and it kind of got progressively, shorter and
What did
shorter.
you want to do in college? What was your
I,
desire at that time?
I wanted to punt.
Okay.
I wanted to punt. So my film started with punts, rolled to kickoffs, or no, maybe it rolled to field goals and ended with kickoffs. But yeah.
Okay.
And then
Mike,
I
I'm
held that. I sent it out to coaches through Twitter DMs, consistently, probably every 1 to 2 weeks, just making sure they had updates on how things were going.
Mike, I was going to throw into the chat here
Please
for
do.
Arav and maybe anybody who would see it in another time if possible. I did put his final highlight film from his senior year into the chat if anybody wanted to take a look.
Okay. Got
Like I
it.
said, most of those were filmed by me sitting in the stands with an iPad, trying to, as he said, frame up the ball,
Yep.
let you see how high it's going, the rotation, all of those types of things. Hopefully that shows off some things a little better.
No, that's great. That's great that you did that. My only concern as a coach, and this is a little interjection, is I played baseball for many, many years, all the way through college, actually, but in high school, especially. And kickers, I think have the same tendency as baseball hitters. All of a sudden, they start looking at their stats, and the stats take over instead of staying comfortable and loose and doing your job, in this case, on Friday night. Do you think in hindsight that by being as involved with the videos and some of the stats and that stuff, that was a help or a hindrance in retrospect?
To be honest, what I looked at it more as not only furthering my career, but I also looked at it more through I didn't really look at my stats, you could say. I didn't spend too much time staring at my numbers or things like that because I knew there's all sorts of external factors.
Yep.
I more cared about when coaches turn on film, they can tell in about 30 seconds if this kid can do what I want at my level or not. You can go and find a lot of kids who are highly ranked kids through these cold sites, but you go watch them and go, okay, this kid can't get any better. This kid can't do this. Oh, this kid might have some of that potential with the smoothness of his swing and his body. So that's more what I was focusing on. Am I getting across my natural ability to make my body do what it needs to do to improve, rather than the end product? It's focusing on the process.
Great. Tell me a little bit about making the decision to Drake. So up to this point, you've mentioned North Dakota State and Army and some of these other schools, and I think for a time there, it sounded like you were going to go to North Dakota State. You were excited about that and how that campus visit went. But then things changed. What changed, and how did you get to where you are now?
Few things changed. Drake was really creeping into me as my number 2. Obviously North Dakota State was still North Dakota State at the top, just because they're national champions and they had all the accolades to go along with the people there and the coaching staff and how they made you feel as a player. But quick story to go with that. I was getting ready to go on my game day visit to North Dakota State. It was probably 2 or 3 days prior to the game, and I received a DM from the coach, and they'd been kind of waning in the communication. It was initially very, very strong and consistent messaging, and it got less and less and less. They were still watching the film and looking at what I was sending them, but I kind of wrote it off as, oh, they're in the season, they're not going to be talking to recruits as much. And about 2 days prior to flying out to North Dakota State, they sent me a message that said, hey, we're not going to look for a punter anymore in this class. We appreciate you. You can still come on the game day if you'd like, but we're not going to be recruiting a punter. And that I didn't end up going on the visit. I didn't end up doing any of that. We stayed home. And that really thrust Drake in the number 1 spot. But that's kind of where that went.
That's a downer right there. That was probably not a good day.
I will say, as a parent, but also someone who had some, getting recruited experience as well, I have often praised how North Dakota State did that. I think most schools would just ghost you. So to have the integrity, I think, to say, this is where the things are, you should know this, so you don't maybe waste a trip that you don't want to take. Right. I thought said a lot about, frankly, the coaching staff and who they are and how they operate. Right. I mean, why a North Dakota State, that's one small reason why they are who they are. Because most of them would just let you string along and then probably ignore you on the entire visit.
Yeah, that's a great point. As we get higher up in this level, right? And if you have the opportunity, Ryan, to be looked at from the pros a couple of years from now, right? And for good or ill, the NCAA has changed, and you are in a Goldilocks zone of sorts right now. You may not think so, but the D1 top dogs, it's just the pros. It's crazy pros, right? They don't have contracts. They don't have, controls and things. So people are getting burned. Guys are moving. Teams are changing. Really hard for a coach, really hard for players. And to dovetail what your dad said, it sounds amazing and sometimes just really cruel when Deion Sanders went out to Colorado and basically said, you guys are all done, right? He was bringing a whole new crew. And initially it seems like that's just sick and mean. And then you're like, you know what? If Deion doesn't win in the next 2 years, Deion's gone. So he's got to make changes. And so guys have to accept this is the new culture. So whereas Drake gets to, I think schools like Drake and the D3 schools, your dad and I've had this chat a bit, I feel like are going to flourish because they're the last bastion of real student athletes. You're going there for that. And the neat thing for others to know is that the competition is exceedingly good. And sometimes it's just a case that you've got a bunch of late bloomers who weren't, you played with, Danny Teraboy. If Danny isn't 6'7", nobody's going to take a look at Danny, but I can't teach 6'7", so, and he's at Michigan and he's trying to get a chance to play, right? And all that kind of stuff. And here you are. So, I'm intrigued by what's in store for you. Maybe spend just a couple of minutes here on up to this point. So your freshman year, sophomore year, and this year, tell us a little about what happened and how it's gone for you.
Yeah, so my freshman year, like a lot of people at my school, they really like to redshirt us and get us that year acclimated to schooling, acclimated to the schedule, acclimated to just kind of everything about college life. Very few guys play their freshman year, and I was no exception. The sophomore year was the first notable year for me as I saw a start on kickoff, and I led our kickoff team to going into our last week of the season. We were the number one in our conference in kickoff return yards, and we were pretty ranked. We were ranked pretty decently in the all of FCS. I don't know exactly where we were, but we were way up from the previous year.
Right.
I do know that. And then
Did you win the conference that year, or because
yes.
you did it this year? Yes.
We won the conference last year and we won it this year. So we're back to back. And unfortunately this year, I was unseated by a sophomore kid with a more of a field goal and kicking focus than I did. And like I said, that fifth year then staying, that kicker Shane Dunning, him punting and doing the field goals for his fifth year of doing it, as he had the extra COVID year, kind of forced me back into my back seat, which it's my role this year.
All right. Let me ask point blank. Do you agree with the coach, or do you think you should have been the starter?
I believe in myself, and I believe that I put forth a really good foot the previous year.
Yep.
I didn't show well in the first of the competitions, and while I showed really well in the last of the two, and at least one of them, he did unseat me with his power. I think I showed well in conditions and consistency, and he showed well with top end power.
Okay. Which certainly can be, something that coaches drool over. Here's a guy who can kick off deep, and we don't have to worry about returns at all, right? Just so that we've got a notion from a kickoff end of things. I was just trying to think about it. So in high school, you were basically a slightly over 60 plus kind of kicker. If the wind was going with us, I'm going to give you the opportunity to kick it in the end zone. Let's get a touchback. If the wind is against us, I am less inclined to let you kick away. And now we're going to try to kick spots and placement and things like that.
Except the Homestead game.
Yeah. Yeah, you got a little jazzed for that, which is good. Where are you now? How, in consistent fashion, from a kickoff standpoint, how far are you kicking the ball?
Honestly, consistently, it's hard to tell in Iowa. It's blowing all over the place, and you
wind.
get a good read on it.
No
but,
trees, no mountains, no nothing.
In light conditions, I'd say my ball's around a 63 to 66 or 67. That's a big
You're flirting with you're flirting with the end zone. Got to go 65
with the end zone, five to 2 deep, and 5-yard line to 2 deep, and then we're around a 3.7 or 3.8 to a 3.9 in hang time.
Good. And when you were kicking the year before, how did the coach use you on kickoffs? Were they looking for placements, or what was happening there?
Yeah, we were looking at placements. We were a right hash, deep right team. And while we were looking at, obviously, if it's there and we can go end zone, we're gonna, give me the freedom to go end zone, but keeping it in the zone. So the main thing for us is as the list of importance, at least this past season, our coordinator is left now. So, and as well as most of our coaching staff, but the past 2 seasons, it has been location, hang time, and then distance.
Okay.
So we want that location, the numbers to the sideline,
Yep.
trying to hit in that dead spot.
Trying to pin them into that back third.
3.75 or 3.8 or higher on the hang.
Yep.
And then lastly is inside the 10, but really kind of focusing on the hang time in the location.
All right, let me ask another question. So you know my K-zone theory and all the rest that goes with it, where you're going to be a quality 3 out of 4 in-game kicker. How far of a kick are you comfortable in making from that spot now?
In what sense? In field
In the
goal?
sense that if you recall when in high school, right? I'm asking you pregame, here we're with the wind, here we're against the wind, where do we need to be? And you knew that I knew that you can go another 5 or 10 yards from whatever it is that you're going to say, maybe even more. But what I try to preach at the camps is I want the kids to focus more on, if I took everybody to the PAT line, everybody is going to believe that they can make 3 out of 4 from there for sure, right? But at some point, as we move back, there's a spot where it's like, I'm not anymore, right? If I go to every NFL guy out there, once they hit the 50-yard mark, we're starting to get close to, it isn't 3 out of 4. Now, this year's kickers are amazing. I think they're at about an 80% clip at short 50s. But so I would say to NFL guys, 55 and in, they're pretty solid. NFL guys don't get the 3 out of 4. NFL guys need to be 4 out of 4. And for them, I would say if I were an NFL coach, I'm looking at a 48-yard field goal and in has got to be good. Just got to be. I recognize beyond that spot, I'm rolling the dice. That's a long way. And if they get off mark or the wind picks up or whatever, we might miss. So now I'm back to you. Here we are in Des Moines. You got a home game. You're going with the wind. Where's the coach need to get the ball for you to come into the game and nail this sucker?
On
It's
field
not a
goal,
distance thing.
on field goal, I'm probably thinking 45 and in.
Okay.
I trust myself from that range. I haven't been doing field goal nearly as much and nearly as often, so that confidence isn't there in it anywhere past there. But I think 45 and in, I could give you a 3 out of 4.
Okay, great. Let's shift one more time. So you're punting as well. So tell me how the punting is going and what is it that you're looking to do there?
Punting is my strong suit. Punting is what I've grown to be able to do well. I guess the only thing there would be slight consistency growth. Being able to, with snap, rush, and operation, adjust to exactly what I need to do. And I was talking to my dad about this the other day. It's more understanding that the job is not to hit a 45, 4.7 or 4.6 on every punt. The job is to put it in location, have solid hang, and let the team cover it. And the job is also don't hit a shitter. Sorry for my language. Don't hit a clunker. Don't hit a clunker. We don't want a 28-2-7, right? We don't want any of that. We need 37 and up, and we need 3-9 and up.
Right. No, and I'm here to tell you, I mean, no shanks.
No shanks.
There's my term for you. You're right. And and as you move up higher, and frankly, in high school, as soon as you hit a shank, all of a sudden everybody's nervous again.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And special teams for most high schools, for most head coaches and special teams coaches, it is stressful because everybody's worried that somebody's either going to take the punt or the kickoff to the house, and it's not going to do well. You did great in recognizing that the sideline would help you out. I think you made a few tackles, but why should you have to make tackles, right? If you did your job and placed that ball, how is it that that thing breaks down? So let me step over on the side of this. Nobody can tell from this. How tall are you? How much do you weigh now?
Right now I'm about 6'2.5". I like to say 6'3". About 210 pounds. I fluctuate between 210 and 215.
Okay. So for a punter, you're kind of right in the right camp physically. For a kicker, you're oversized, if you will. Although McManus for the Packers tonight, I want to say he's like 6'5" or so.
He's giant.
Yeah, he's tall. But kicking is one of those things where the smaller guys, if you're consistent, and Brandon Aubrey is 6 foot tall, if that. So it's leg speed, strength, and just a really great lockout on that foot. But the punters, more of the NFL punters are 6'3" plus, right? And there's even some 6'6" guys in there where they can muscle it more. And I'm looking at more and more kicks that traditionally would have been traditional punts that the guy is punting from his own 30 and he is going to hit a wobble ball. He's going to hit a knuckler. He's going to hit some other stuff. What do you see from the pros to you to other punters that you've seen, and maybe even with your coaches? You had mentioned accuracy and hang time. Are you normally doing a traditional punt, or is there a spot on the field where you say, this is where I'm going to change that?
This past season, we did a really good job. Our guy is really good at rollouts, at spiral rollouts specifically, but he's also very good as a traditional punter. And he was a bit of a lower
He wasn't
leg,
just doing rugby. He was doing a full rollout.
a full spiral rollout, yeah.
Okay.
And so in different situations, he would pull that out, and they would kind of let him, swing away. And other times he was very good about crossfield accuracy, and he was really good about controlling the power he was swinging with. Sometimes I'll tell you, we would get into our tight zones where you're going in and you need something pinned, and he was really good about, he could still spiral that if he needed to going into a wind and control it to where it's still dropping down inside the 5, whereas if I would still catch one sometimes, and you get it caught just off the foot, it's still flying into the end zone. So for me, I'm finding different balls like a banana ball or an end over end ball. If am I going cross field, am I going sideline, and figuring out how to play those to the best of my ability. Does that answer your question?
I think, let me open it up to Matt and Arav here a little bit. Are there any questions that you have for Ryan?
I have one I'll bring up. I hope this speaks to Rob a little bit, and I'd love to have him ask whatever he likes. But Ryan, how did you manage? Because Arav said he wanted to be in all three, this coming year, punt, kickoff, field goal. You, Ryan, kicked every ball for Cedarburg High School for 3 years. That meant you were the only one in practice pretty much kicking balls unless Coach Farley filled in or you had somebody to jump in. How do you manage that over the course of the year? Not just, through August in the preseason, but then into the season, so you're not dragging a cement leg on Friday night.
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. Coach Farley definitely helped me mitigate and mediate how much I was doing.
Ryan,
But
stop kicking.
yes, exactly. And it was nice to have someone there to tell me, but also finding different ways to keep yourself busy doing technical work, so you don't feel like you're doing nothing, but you're still getting something done. Whether that's drops, whether that's a few swings, whether that's your no step drills, whether that's your 1-step drills, whether it's your line drills like Coach Farley loves. Finding different ways to incorporate those without hitting 60 full field goals or 30 punts or 15, 20 kickoffs.
You mean Drake doesn't have you flying a drone?
No,
You gotta help the team. You gotta help the team however you can.
No, they go to the school and find people to help out.
There you go.
Build, if I can just build on that piece, and then I promise I'm going to get out of the way. But Ryan, you and I have talked now about how you're building to this next year, and really maybe thinking about A, fewer kicks, and B, more situational work. Just kind of expand on that a little.
Yeah, so another thing to focus on really as a kicker, punter, whatever you're doing, is understanding that you should be making your practices a lot like your games. So maybe take 4 balls, you're going to hit 3 sets of punts. You're going to hit one going one way, one going the other way. You're going to scatter these balls across the field, right, in different situations. So you're going to have that. You're going to go that way. You're going to pick them up. You're going to do the same thing. You're going to spread them around. You're going to talk to yourself, all right, this is what we're going to do in this situation. This is what we're going to do in this situation. We got the headwind this way. We got a tailwind this way. So that's going to change the ball we're going to hit. That's going to change the range we're comfortable on field goals. And so we're going to adjust ourselves to that. We're going to go left hash, middle. We're going to go right hash. We're going to go right middle, left middle, whatever we're feeling in those areas. And then I even like to switch it up because I don't know how this will equate to high school. I know high school in Texas is different than high school up here. But if we're going to be checking out of a certain direction, making sure that I can feel comfortable going from a left to a right, going on punt or things like that. Or if we're changing up our cadence on field goal, making sure mentally you're ready to change up cadences. And then taking your 3 to 4 sets, accepting that's what you hit that day, understanding you're good at your job and going home, and not feeling like you have to hit another good 4 balls because if you do that, you're going to be out there all day.
All right, you know,
Gotcha.
some of the drills that I put you through on some of that stuff where on certain days, yep, I want to leave on a great hit. Other days, I'm going to say, this is the last ball, so that there is a pressure and there is a feeling afterwards. And quite frankly, if you hit a bad ball, you have to live with the mistake for at least a day. Do you do that same kind of thing, or have you found other drills that have helped you further?
That is definitely something I do. Not necessarily saying, "Oh, it's your last ball, live with it." If you're, you live with that feeling for a day, but saying like, "All right, these are your 8 balls you're gonna hit. We know what we're gonna hit. We're gonna go out here and we're gonna do it, and then we're gonna put the balls away. We're gonna go in the locker room and we're gonna change. We're gonna shower. And we're gonna leave." And understanding that every game you don't get, however many attempts, and you get that one attempt at that one spot. And maybe there's a false start, but most likely not. And you're gonna have to deal with the results of that. So understanding that every single ball is a ball you deal with the results with, and you have to be able to analyze, flush, and forget. So what would I do wrong? Did I do something wrong? Were there elements out of my control that made that difficult? Move on to the next ball and forget it.
Good.
Gotcha.
Rob,
So,
do you have any questions for Ryan?
yes, sir. I have a couple written down.
Go ahead.
So I'm mainly a punter, but I also like only because I've been injured. I've injured my groin, so it takes a toll on my groin every time I kick. So, but I'm slowly getting stronger and getting back to where it was. So I want to ask you, like, if I'm trying to play at all 3 positions, how should I space out my punting, my kickoffs, my field goals in a week? Like, should I do two punt sessions in a week and then 1 field goal kicking?
What I'll say to that is, I guess, find what you're good at, the less you do it. And that sounds weird, but for me, I'm better at punts when I do fewer and I don't overthink it. Field goals, I need the reps, I need the work, I need the practice. So I'm going to trust my punt. I'm going to maintain my punt. I might do drops and stuff, but as far as hitting punts, I'm going to leave that to maybe 1 session. And I'm going to move and do a few more field goal and kickoff sessions in order to raise that to the same level. In the off season, that's when I'm really going to grind my technique and my work. But if I'm doing 3 sessions a week and I get a game, I'm not even doing 3 sessions. I'm doing 1 or 2.
Yeah, this is just off season for now. But and another thing, should like when I'm going out to punt, should I always do directional? Always, like left and right, or never kick down the middle, right?
Yeah, I'd say if you want to get straight work, do go sideline to sideline. If you're
Yeah.
working on swinging straight, if you're working on maintaining your drop, you can go sideline to sideline and getting good contact. But apart from that, everything should be directional. I agree. Yeah.
Okay.
And
And
I'm sorry, Ara, that may have a little bit to do with how your high school does it at this point too.
yeah.
Try to replicate however they ask you to do it in those situational sessions. Go ahead.
And another one. I don't know what your hang times are, but like on punts, but like what are like the best workouts, like most efficient workouts for me, like get higher hang times on punts?
Yeah. So I mean, nothing will replace no muscle will replace technique in kicking. That's one thing to keep in mind. No muscle will replace technique. But I guess I could say any sort of movement where you have force going directly upwards or up and out. So
Mhm.
whether that's weighted box jumps, whether that's any sort of single leg, double leg, jumping. So any form of jumping is always good. Broad jumps, vertical jumps, and then the other thing I would say, targeting single leg, moving slowly downwards, and then exploding upwards.
Yeah,
Lastly, I would say hang cleans, block cleans, and things like that.
gotcha.
Is there anything technique wise, Ryan? Because I know you've made some adjustments over the last year or two, and now you're again when you're hitting good balls, they're much more consistently that 4.6 to 4.8 range. How did you get there technique wise? Was there anything you adjusted that made that difference?
Yeah, so the way that I approached that was I had a coach tell me that a really good thing to focus on is thinking about everything feeling like a layup. A lot of guys usually you're focusing on punting and hitting the ball, and a lot of us come into our plant with our heel and then come down like this, and a lot of the force that we need to go up and out is going the exact opposite way, and it's going heel down. So think about finding a way to treat your foot as a launch point rather than an end point. And so, Robert, you right or left footed?
Right.
So you're going to think about your left foot going to the ground as you're just about to go upwards for that layup. And so you're not going to drive off of that heel. You're going to drive off that ball of your foot. So planning on that flat front part of the foot and thinking about launching upwards rather than restricting yourself to staying crunched and downwards.
Gotcha.
I like that point. I haven't heard it expressed quite that way. It makes, Matt, for you and I, it makes me think of the old Ray Guy story where as a kid, he was trying to punt a ball over the power lines that were by his house when he was a kid. And, he was one of the first punters who, became so dominating at the time. And although what is amazing today is if Ray Guy were in the league today, he would be probably second or third lowest in average in the league. So guys are getting stronger, hitting bigger balls, all that kind of stuff. Hey, I want to move us through here and close up shop here pretty quick. Rob, do you have anything else that you want to ask here as long as we got the opportunity?
No, I can't think of anything as of
Okay,
now.
that's okay. I'm gonna steal the screen here for a second, and I'm gonna share my screen, if I can do that. I think I can. So one of the things that I wanted to, I assume you guys can see this. I don't know that I can get, I wish I could zoom in my, in the episode, I will zoom in on this thing. I'm not exactly sure how to do it here, but this is all the current stat leaders. And so AJ Cole is having just an extraordinary year. His average is 51.7. But the thing that, Ryan, that is kind of a constant for me is what is the net average? And so you look at AJ Cole and his net average is 44.8, which again, as a pro, high school guys, if you remember, I would tell you the minimum of what I'm looking for in a Rob as a high schooler is I want a net 30 in high school. In college, I want a net 35. In the pros, I want a net at least 40. And frankly, here's somebody who is challenging 45, which is just amazing. But here's Cameron Johnston with the same average, 51.5, but his net average is 37.5. Any Matt or Ryan or Rob, do you want to take a guess at why that might be?
Line
Well, first
drivers.
off, he's only got 2 punts.
He's only got 2 punts, so that's not a fair assessment. But if that's the case, then obviously one was probably kind of a power ball that was low, right? There was probably a low hang time in there.
More reinforcement for that point actually would
look at this. So here's Ryan Stonehouse, 50.8. So effectively the same, but his net average is under 40. Let's take and so if inside the 20, he's got how many punts has he got here? Total punts 63. He's got 63 punts, but he's got 18 inside the 20. Cole has got less than 50 punts and he's got more inside the 20. So it's been even more effective on some kind of pooch.
I would say, Mike, I'm sorry with Ryan Stonehouse, look at the column, how many were returned. He has 63 punts, and if you go up, 42 of them have actually been run back.
Right.
That, in my mind, is a huge number for an NFL punter. I think it's rare for them to have much more than half returned. And so to see 42 out of 63 is a lot.
Do we think that Ryan is not getting the hang time he should?
Ryan Stonehouse, which is interesting because going his rookie year, he was a hang time leader.
Yeah.
But yeah, Titans seem to let him swing away kind of and open up the field, and teams may be realizing that, and this might lead to more returns.
Right.
Yeah. That's why I like Jack Fox a lot. Like if you go across the board, he has the least punts, a lot of inside the 20, least
40,
returns. He's like really good.
Rob, you're right. 46.3. That's
he's been my favorite punter this season.
Jack Fox is a guy who hits monster balls, and if you go a little further down, you see another guy in the same league as him, Tommy Townsend, actually with a 47.9 yard average with a 45 net.
Right.
That's a guy who again is consistently in the 5.3s and 5.4s. Whenever you get your clock out and time him in a game, and that's showing there, him and Jack Fox both.
Right. Yeah, pretty amazing. So here tonight, Packers are playing against the Seahawks. And so what I wanted to close here with is, so Michael Dixon is the punter for the Seahawks. So he's averaging close to 50. His net average, though, isn't as strong. He's had some great years. he's been with the Seahawks for how long? Maybe 6, 7 years, something like that. And
Oh,
he's an Aussie, isn't he? I think.
yes.
All right.
Yes.
So I'm gonna so Coach Farley has a YouTube channel, and on the YouTube channel is this guy, which I completely stole, but then added my own 2 cents to. And what you'll notice is I got somewhere around 300,000 views of this particular video. So I'm going to play it. It might get a little choppy on Zoom for you, but when I go to the episode and do the replay, I will put in the real thing so it's nice and clean. But I'm just going to let this play. You can take a peek at this. I says, have you ever seen a double punt? You may have seen this play.
So third down continues to be a problem for Seattle. Aaron Donald now. Oh, here's a block. Blocked off the foot of Dixon, and Dixon now kicks it. Oh, that's coming back. That's coming back as this goes down near the 10. But that's 2 kicks for the price of 1, and I'm thankful Mike Pereira is here with us in Seattle.
Mike's thankful he's here too. He gets to chime in. You actually see everything once in a while you haven't seen in a very long time, and this is one. Now, you can advance the ball once it's been blocked. You can pick it up behind the line of scrimmage, and you can advance it, but no, you can't kick it again.
Well, just picking it up and running with it, how much fun is in that, Mike?
Yeah, well, that is true.
That's sure you got these big guys chasing you. Jameer Jones is the one that got through, and that wasn't even close. I mean, he was there waiting for that. And then, by the way, the ball went 68 yards on kick number 2, but it's not going to count.
Well, Dixon's laughing a little bit himself.
Well, these officials, by the way, Mike, are trying to figure out where the heck the ball goes. The conversation has lasted a while. McVay's involved because it's right by him. Mike?
Well, it's a penalty now on the kicking team. It was behind the line of scrimmage. You can choose, if you're the Rams, whether you want to add on that 10-yard penalty to the end of the kick, the dead ball spot, or drive them back 10 yards and force another kick, which I think they would do.
Yeah, that's an easy decision.
Right.
The second kick was so good. Right now it's sitting at the 11-yard line of the Rams.
Yeah, another inside the 20.
There's no foul for illegally kicking the ball. The punter's heel was on the line of scrimmage at the time that he kicked the ball. It'll be Los Angeles' ball, 1st and 10 at the dead ball spot.
So when I saw this thing, I remember thinking, that's not right. And the Mike Pereira guy got in there. It's like they all were in agreement that he couldn't do this. But because it got blocked behind the line of scrimmage and the ball never made it past the line of scrimmage, why couldn't I punt it again? And you can see here, I got 232 comments. And I was like, well, why did this video take off? So I'm at 277,000 views on this particular thing. And there's like 4 other versions of this exact same play. But I think it's because I took it from that angle, and a lot of people hate Buck and Troy Aikman, and they so like to see that those guys were wrong. I think that's where the views came in. But do you think you would have had the presence of mind to scoop that sucker up and get her downfield?
Part of me says no, I'd just pick it up and try to run, but I think as kickers, we're just so predisposed to just try to swing at the thing that, if I was able to pick it up, I probably would have jumped on it, honestly, due to coaching.
Right.
But if I had it in the presence of mind to pick it up, I think the first thing I'm doing is try to get it away from me.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen this, so after I've seen that, I've kept this in mind. If this ever happens, I'm gonna do what he did, because I think his Aussie rules football came in like his instincts,
Big
and
time.
that's how they play. So
I think you're right about that. And so to me, that's a summer day where you're bored,
yeah,
right? But to hit a few balls, and it's like, could I? It's one of the problems I've got with a lot of high school coaches who want to do a rollout punt. roll-out punt is awesome if the punter can keep the ball longer so that when you punt it, the team is already right there. It's an automatic fair catch. But my question, and with Ryan and other coaches, I've said, to the head coach, does the punter have the right? Does he have a green light to go if he thinks he can get the first down? Most high school coaches do not want to give that right. Most college coaches or pro coaches aren't going to give that. And so what the high school coach misses is he's thinking, well, the kid just rolls out and he just hits the ball. And it's like, talk about a shank potential. That sucker is high. So I do think it's one where you can practice. I had a brother who was a great golfer, and he hit 1,000 shag balls a day, but 50 or 60 of those are some crazy, sand trap shot or behind the tree or hitting it with the opposite hand, just to know, what, I've got some consistency to do this. But I do think, Rob, you're right. I think his Aussie rules football came into play and really helped him out and got a good strike on the ball. But because my gut reaction as a coach is pick up one, the way he picks up the ball is kind of amazing, but is risky. But he gets it. Once he gets it, then I want him fighting for the first down, that he would just bore his head and try to get the first down. But in this case, everybody kind of backed off for a second. And so maybe you'd have the presence of mind to go, I could just kind of boop it downfield. And of course, it takes a nice roll, and he gets what he gets.
I would say are for rollouts, again, not knowing what your high school does. And, I know you're thinking of doing it next year and hopefully beyond if it works out. But rollouts, there's a lot of different ways to do it. Ryan mentioned that his teammate Shane would spiral rollouts. Ryan, you actually drop it and hit it like a kickoff, nose down, and hit this, it looks just like a big high kickoff that'll go low 40s, and it'll be sometimes 4.5, 4.6, and easy to catch. And that's something, the way you do that allows you to even turn your hips. And if you want, you can give a same look and go cross field rather than going near. There are, the whole Aussie style where you kind of have the two hands on the ball and drop it down. So that would probably be one, to Mike's point, even to expand, is to play around with. What kind of rollout do you like? What do you feel comfortable with? As he said, it is a shank potential for sure. If I think high school coaches go, just roll out and kick it, it's fine. You have to kind of know exactly what you want to do with that, because you're moving. There's rushes coming from different places. You can pick your eyes up very easily. How do you want to hit that ball? Hit it the way you're comfortable with and have practiced it, because it isn't as easy as some will want to make it sound.
Uh-huh.
Do you have a preferred way to do a rollout?
Yeah. Or Rob.
Oh, well, I haven't really rolled out much, but I don't typically know how to hit the perfect end over end, like type of pooch punt on the rollout. So I like doing the spirals when I do.
Got you.
I think it's riskier. I'm kind of surprised that your guy there at Drake is doing a rollout spiral punt. That seems awfully risky to me, where being able to put the ball out there, as you're about to show here, show Rob how you hold the ball when you're going to punt it in that fashion. And so Ryan is a lefty, so just reverse.
I'm going to try to flip it. I'm going to try to flip it for him.
Okay.
So I think
all right, you got it? All right, so for me, as I'm catching this thing, I'm coming around here, and I'm moving my hand to the back end here, holding it just like this.
Hold on, let me get
as a straight up, you hold it kind of a little bit more rotated for an end over end, or normal one. So we're just going to spin that ball around here, and now we're going to approach it from a side angle, and I like to cock it slightly like this, slightly with the top of the ball angled towards me. And like my dad said, I'm really swinging around this thing just like a kickoff.
Where are you looking to hit the ball?
For me, I'm looking to hit the ball pretty much exactly the same as field goals and kickoffs. You're about, a quarter to the third of the way up and really popping this thing. And the main thing is you really want to get under this thing and drive yourself up through it, because a lot of times you're doing this with a tailwind or with a hope of no return. And so that distance isn't going to be quite as important, because you don't have to account for any sort of return.
Right.
Gotcha. So are your laces pointed away from you or to the side? Okay.
Yeah, the laces are pointed to the side.
To the side?
Away. Sorry, away.
Okay, yeah.
To the side, must be. No, away. They're pointing away from you.
I would think
All
you'd
right.
want to take a look at as much of that back panel as you can.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Strike
Yeah.
it.
I have a few of them on the video my dad sent. I don't know how well you can see the ball angle, but you can see kind of what I'm talking about is I'm rolling sideways. I'm looking at the ball and the laces are facing directly downfield. And as I'm dropping the ball, I'm planning and rotating through just like a kickoff. So I'm starting with this ball with the laces downfield and rotating through it.
Great.
So how do you do a traditional grip? Traditional punt, like spiral? How do you
Traditional
do it?
punt, I'm straight handshake. We're going, let me stand up. So I have to just put myself in the situations. So I'm going straight handshake,
Is that second finger on the seam?
third finger on seam.
All right.
And Rob, I think the way Ryan holds it is pretty traditional, but everybody's hand's a little bit different.
Mhm.
Obviously, you've got two hands on at the start, and then on the last step, you're taking that guide hand away. And I've got little tiny baby hands, and so and playing in terrible conditions and whatnot, oftentimes the ball is wet and slippery, and where it's almost I'm going two hands and holding as long as I can, and if it was super slippery, I'd have my hand almost completely on the bottom as opposed to the side because I didn't want to have it slip out of my fingers. Do you ever wear a glove, Ryan, on crappy days?
I'm giving it a try. I don't like it too much. I
Yeah.
more go with a side grip on those horrible days.
Okay, so if it was stronger that way, what about on gale force wind days? What are you thinking?
Hold on to it and pray.
Yep.
Are you thinking of trying to kick it more out of your hand? Not truly, but
Yeah, that the more the thought is also, and for me, everything into a wind on a windy day, I'm just thinking like the saying is breezy swing easy. What's breezy swing easy? But just kind of letting everything go and understanding this is not going to be a bomb. These are not the conditions to hit a bomb. These are not the conditions to hit a ooh-ah. These are the conditions to hit a good job.
Yeah.
And thanks for getting us out of the situation. That's what this punt is. And it doesn't have to be pretty, it doesn't have to be ugly. It is about hitting your location and getting solid distance on it.
great.
And well, we were talking about grips too. I want to have Ryan show while he's here, just because I'm still intrigued by this. I know it's something you've worked on and you've had moments when it's been awesome, but you're still trying to work it out. Arv talked about the end over end, which I think most guys do, the straight up end over end. I'm going to try to pin you down at the 10. Most players will do that very similarly, but you've been fooling around with another one that when it's good, it's wicked. And you just got to refine it, and then you'll choose whether to use it in a game. But would you show that as well, that banana ball?
Yes, a few guys have pulled this one out in the NFL now. Maybe Ethan Evans is one of the guys who's pulled it out. Isaac Punts might have a video on that, but your traditional is just like this. You're gonna take this ball, rotate it up flat, and rotate it the opposite angle of your spiral. You can kind of play with this angle here, depending on what you want to do. When you go more straight like this, you're gonna hit the back end of the ball. It's gonna be more of a weird top rotator versus a end over end reverse rotator. And then the more angle you get, the more this thing is going to go up and trail off to what would be my left or your right, and hitting through this back end of the ball and thinking about hitting kind of through these stripes. You're swinging straight up and through these last two laces, and this ball is going to go up and kind of fall off to your kicking foot side in a very weird rotation that our returners themselves have said is the worst punt to catch.
Yeah, I've seen Ethan Evans and like Isaac Punts do it. It's nasty. If you can hit it right, it's probably the worst one to catch.
Yeah, the returners at our school, whenever they stay after and they're hit and they're want some punts caught, that is the one that they just have to keep trying to catch it because they can't and they get really frustrated. It's really funny.
So I have two more questions, or
Go.
one more, I guess.
Go ahead.
So have you gone to the rank camps like Coles or like Sailor? Like when you
Yes,
were in high school?
I have.
So I haven't gone to any camps. Do you recommend I go? And are they like biased? Like, do they want me to come multiple times or like, are they pretty honest with their rankings?
I'll tell you about my experience and I'll let you infer from there. I don't think it's my place to say yes or no. What I'll tell you is that I went for my first 2 years of high school. My sophomore year, after the sophomore kicking season, the rankings came out December 30th or 31st, and I was number 19 field goal kicker in the nation.
Mm-hmm.
My junior year, going into my junior season, I was the number 19 or 20 punter in the nation. By the end of my senior season, since I hadn't gone, I had fully dropped out of rankings. Take with that what you will.
So they, okay.
I will, and Mike's got his take on it, and I have mine as well as a parent. RF, I'll tell you where I'm at with it. I think there is value in a couple ways, in that you can really stack yourself up against everybody else and maybe get a much more honest answer. How good am I? You
Mhm.
know, is this realistic? What level might I consider at the next level if I want to? I think, parents, kids, we can all not really know, but then when you're all on the same spot and you're all getting charted the same way, it starts to give you that answer. And it's competition. You're in a way, you're competing against really good talent. In that, there's value. As Ryan said, he didn't go to it after his sophomore year, and obviously I'm writing those checks. And as we talked, we decided that was not in getting training and coaching was better than going to get another ranking.
Gotcha. Because those camps can get expensive.
They can.
I'm just wondering if I should probably just get ready, watch Twitter, see how these guys are kicking their best ball, and then
Yep.
if I get ready, I can go.
And as far as when you get to that place too, RF, I know you're heading into your senior year, right? You're a junior, so you have a summer coming up.
Yeah.
I would definitely recommend poking around and trying to hit a few of the college one-day camps. They tend to be and you got to be smart about it. You don't want to go to like Texas Tech maybe, and okay, they're going to look at 2 guys and there's 50 other guys writing a check. They usually tend to be 100 or less. There's lots of them out there, and it's, a few hours in the morning, but if you pick the right ones, it's another way to not get charted, but to get a sense for, okay, do I belong here or not? And Ryan, we did a handful for you at different levels. You did some D2, you did some D1, and not a ton because we were still coming out of COVID. But I think that it was a less expensive way to figure out where you might, rate and fit at those levels.
So I've been once to UNT camp freshman year.
Okay.
That's when I found out those guys are pretty good. So I said I might as well just train, get good, and then come back.
Yep. This would be the time to do it, is to look around, and there is, and Mike, maybe you and I have to figure out how to work with this guy. And I'm going to post another link in the chat once I find it.
Okay.
There is a guy who was a kicker dad, and I've talked to him once actually, which is why, Mike, maybe we should reach out. He might be over it now, but he actually goes to the trouble to find these camps and list them. So it's called kick-spot.com. It's a great repository because he's thinking about the kicking. And is it the general camp that will invite kickers? Is it just a kicking college camp? And it's everything from, like I said, Texas and Oklahoma down to Southwest Oklahoma Baptist. And you can figure out, is there something that makes sense for you? And again, to give yourself a good gauge, but they're not going to teach you. You're not going to get coached. You're there to kick and let them see you. They might give you a tip, Ryan. I don't know if anybody ever gave you any insight in those, but generally speaking, they just kind of want to see what you're doing. So yeah.
Well, hey, those are great questions, Rob and Ryan. Thank you for being on. Matt, thank you for being on. I'm going to shut us down here, and different clips of this will be available inside of Kicking School, and the full thing. Actually, that was the one last thing I think I just want to show for folks to know that when they go into Kicking School, let's see here. So inside the classroom, if you are at level, let me just go back here. If you're at level 3, it unlocks all of the episodes. And so here's episode 1 from talking about Justin Tucker to the Bears field goal that got blocked. And so this one will be the episode 6. So these are really great because there's typically 2 or 3 different things that we're talking about, and some other things that can happen within the classroom. I typically in the community like to put a couple little clips in there as kind of a teaser for everybody who's, we got a lot of level 1s and level 2s are in there. So as you comment more and as you get further along in school, more opportunities to take a look at things are in there and are just there for you to soak up. So we'll close it right there. It's 6:04. We went a little long, but I think there was really good information. And I really appreciate the three of you helping me out here and jumping on. And we will be doing again, I think, January 5th. So not until the new year. People want to go home, open up some presents, and a new kicking wizard for you, Ryan. So, oh, sorry about that, Matt. And we'll see where we go. But again, enjoy your holiday weekend, and please, by all means, jump in, tell your friends about this. I really want to keep growing. Just real quickly here, I'll show we are at 58 members. So I'm hoping that by the end of the year we'll be over the 60 mark, and just keep growing it and growing it and growing it. So again, thanks so much, and have a good evening. Go
Yeah.
Pat.
Thank
Go
you
Pat.
guys.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks.
Take
Thank you,
care.
Ryan. Yeah. Bye.